Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming to tonight's council meeting. We will do the invocation by Councilmember Solomon, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Segarra. Would you please stand with us?
Let us bow our heads. Father, we want to thank you for this day again. This is truly the day you've made. We thank you for this meeting. We ask for your wisdom. We ask for your guidance. We thank you for every citizen of the Killeen, city of Killeen, this great city. And Father, we thank you for every soldier, all of our military here and abroad. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Solomon and Councilmember Segarra. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Please click in. Councilmember Boyd.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Councilmember Solomon.
Second.
Thank you both. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. And let the record show Mayor Pro Tem Cobb is absent and Councilmember Adams is absent. Councilmember Segarra. Yes, it works now. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Council. Madam Secretary, presentation.
PR 24010, presentation of a certificate to the Ellison High School basketball team coaches.
Once again, good afternoon, everyone. This is a great honor for me to stand with you and before you as we recognize the Ellison basketball team players for their second straight, what? Title II, where? State, come on, motivation, state title. Come on, give them a round of applause. That is truly, truly amazing. And before we go forward with the family members, please stand up. We want to recognize you. Please stand. Thank you for your commitment and your investment in your child, not only on the court, but off the court, academics. Thank you all. Thank you. Do we have any coaches here? Oh, sir, I'm sorry. You look just so young. They do? Oh, yes, you do. You got a little beard this time. Okay, but that's okay. And we also have a representative from KISD School Board, Mr. Mintz. Sir, is there anybody else with you? Oh, Dr. Faye, please come up here. Dr. Faye, you're in my house. Come on up. Please, yes, Dr. Faye is a great athlete herself. So her daughter just won the state title, regional title, so that's great. And she's in the house, and I like to give honor where honor is due. So thank you for coming and standing with us. So is it okay? I gotta get permission from staff. Is it okay for me to just turn slide? Okay, thank you. It's indeed it's okay? Okay, it's indeed an honor for me to stand here and do this appreciation for you. I am so proud of you. 2 times in a row, what can you say? You know, you go beyond. Yes, sir? What'd you say? Yes, sir. So I'm grateful for all of you and what you do. And I know next year, if you're coming back, you're going to do even greater things. So give yourself a round of applause. You have that attitude, no matter what, I don't quit. And I'm truly grateful. And coaches, what can we say about you? You are truly the best. We truly appreciate your time and investment in our future leaders. They will one day be standing in where I'm standing or higher, and will look back and say, it started when I was in high school. I learned my discipline. I had great mentors, and my coach was always there. Thank you very, very much. The city of Killeen proudly recognized the city of Killeen proudly recognized the Ellison Eagles for another tremendous season in which you won your second consecutive district title and enjoyed an impressive 17-game winning streak. Above all, we commend you in joining an extremely elite group of high school playing in back-to-back state title games. Your Success Civil Medal finishes are something all of Killeen and Central Texas are proud to recognize and applaud. We are truly honored to call you a part of the City of Killeen team, the Fighting Eagle Ellison basketball players, and we are happy for you, not only for now, but for your future and for your family. And we want to say congratulations, and we'll see you winning that title next year. Woo!
Photo in the corner.
Ms. Bradley, would you please come? We'll take one together as a group, then I take it with just the coaches and the players. I just believe in recognizing leadership. And parents, I'm seeking I sneak y'all in for one. Council, y'all are my council, please stay. Oh. Okay, so we're a big family.
All right, everybody on three. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3.
One more coaches. I'm supposed to be giving this to you. Yes, sir.
All right. On 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yes. Oh, congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. You're welcome. Congratulations. And this is our city, oh, thank you. This is our city coin, so that's important. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations, 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 that's part of your team. Yes, sir. Welcome, lady, thank you. All right, and what's next?
Picture with players and mayor and coaches.
Players? You come on this side. Is it okay for you to be here?
All right. And on 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
On behalf of the players and the coaches, we just like to give the city thanks, give the mayor thanks, and thanks for all the support throughout the year and last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, council, for your patience and audience. Thank you. We are so proud of the Ellison Eagles basketball team. All right, we'll get back on the agenda with our citizen comments for our new residents that will be speaking tonight. You have 4 minutes to speak on an agenda item. For our council, you have 1 minute if you would like to make a statement. Our first person is Ms. Alyssa Brown. You have 4 minutes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have some questions about the amendment to our water conservation and drought contingency plan. When you look at it on the first and third triggers, we are reducing the number of consecutive days where we have to be at 80% of consumption. The question is, why would we reduce that, knowing that most years when summer comes around, once that drought starts to hit, it doesn't stop. We just came out of stage 2 water restriction for the first time in almost 2 years. We were in stage 4 for approximately 3 days due to water line breakages, but when that happens, we can't push the limit and say, push it until it's 5 consecutive days, almost an entire week. Now we're 2 days behind the curve versus where we're currently at. So I would recommend not reducing the number of days that it takes to trigger water restrictions during stage 1 and stage 2. Also, are we removing stage 4? This means that we're going to go straight from a moderate conservation to emergency conservation. We're removing an important step that allows us to gradually increase the restrictions on the residents, maintain water, but also not put as harsh limitations in a lot of cases. And then finally, my question is, during any level of water restriction, will the city be complying with this and reducing their water usage by a minimum of 5%? Will the city be limiting the days that they are watering their properties? I know that during both stage 2 and stage 4, the city was watering property at the intersection of Terrace and W.S. Young on unimproved land the city owns as part of the PFC deal that was made. So if we're asking our citizens and our businesses to uphold these restrictions, I think it's imperative that the city lead by example and that we also maintain those same restrictions. Thank you.
Hey, look, $1 up here. Whee! PH 24011, rezoning property from agriculture to the single-family homes. Quote from last week's newspaper. As mayor, the 2040 Moving Forward Plan is not just a plan, it's a strategic roadmap that sets the course for our city's future. It articulates my visionary objectives for safety, residents, infrastructure, economic growth, homelessness, and community partnership, all of which are pivotal for the city development, end quote. Tonight, let's see if that's true. Let's discuss the approval of the rezoning application that will add 600 single-family homes to the community along Featherline. Let's look at it by number. 600 homes, well, typically 2 adults purchase that home, so that equals 1,200 people. Now let's add some children, about 1,000 children. Well, that makes it to 2,200 people also traveling on Featherline Road. Again, that's a one-lane road, one way in, one way out. Have you ever considered where the nearest grocery store for these people are? Well, I calculated about 6 miles away. Basically, City Council, you're creating a new food desert in that area when you add 600 more single-family homes and/or 2,200 people. In the food desert, something you've been trying to delete, trying to stop? Well, it looks like you're going to be responsible for adding another food desert to the local area of Killeen. Yet your Director of Developmental Services said, quote, adding these homes will have zero impact on the local community, end quote. I guess he's never been over there, because I can assure you that this will have a major impact on the people living and traveling along Featherline Road. Let's move on. PH 2412, Budget Amendment Overview. A couple of weeks back, the City Council received a presentation that indicated that Stone Tree Golf Course is projected to make $175,600 profit. I noticed that in the budget amendment list that was provided in a presentation last week said that the city is expected to hand over additional taxpayer funds, around $73,843, to the golf course, known as some kind of golf course enterprise fund. Haven't heard of that before, but I've heard of people giving other people money. My question is, if the golf course is going to be making money for the first time in a long time, why is the city giving them money? This is an entertainment entity. I also want to know in my follow-up question how many people were there who were residents of other communities who are also members of the Stone Tree Golf Course. Seems around 31 to 34 people are residents of Harker Heights. Then my follow-up question is, when will Harker Heights City Council pay into the Golf Course Enterprise Fund? You know, that new fund we just created? If the other cities are using Stone Tree, where's their fair share of the funding? Next, this budget amendment includes a new line item called facade grants. Facade grants for the downtown revitalization, $50,000. Can someone explain to me why after 3 years of ARPA money and other grant money continuously given to the downtown revitalization, they now get $50,000 more? Please tell me who's able to apply for this grant, what the time frame is, and why only the downtown businesses are eligible for $50,000 facade grants. Shouldn't the government money me as a taxpayer pay into be spread around the entire city and not continually given to the downtown area? Why is my taxpayer money continually targeted for only those businesses in the downtown area? That's a good question I have. The city of Killeen is comprised of more than 6 blocks. Let's make sure that money gets spread around to everyone and not just a select few. Lastly, what staff are making these horrible recommendations to the city council? They love spending our money freely, yes, our taxpayer money. The city staff need to stop trying to override the 2040 comprehensive plan and make decisions on property that they don't even visit. Stop giving away our tax money. Thank you.
Sean Price. Good afternoon, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon. We're just on the public hearing, right? Madam Mayor?
We're on citizen comments.
Citizen comments, okay. So, as y'all always know, I got lots of questions. I'm going to try to be fast to get through all my questions tonight, so I do apologize if I stutter here. On DS 24-030, how will this deal with the now deep fake AI media be involved or mitigated? On on RS 24-069, the tax addendum in there, that when it discusses the taxes, it talks about raising taxes, and that if the city raises taxes on any of the issues, that they're going to raise their prices, right? That this entity is allowed to raise their prices to collect those taxes. So essentially, the city pays the taxes. Just wondering why that they get to obfuscate or get by the rising cost at $148,000. RS 24-070, for $87,114. Who will be the observer of compliance that the Texas Governance Codes 2271, 2274 remain in compliance, other than a memorandum? So that's the only document that, oh, well, we promise not to do this, right? But who's actually going to oversee to make sure that they actually don't do those things? RS 24-071 at $2.7 million for a hobby field, for the airfield out there, right? What's the justification of spending $2.7 million for something that can be renovated? It's a hobby field. I don't know of how many planes we got, passenger planes that are going in there. To me, it's just small Cessnas, maybe a Lear, maybe. Don't even know if it can handle that since the runway is pretty short. But just wondering why we're still spending this money on this airfield when it's a hobby field, essentially, especially at that rate. Since we're $282 million in debt, and we're going to add another $105 million in debt to a new city hall, so these rising costs keep going up. With the ordinance 24-004, I'd say remove section 340 or 30-4 and utilize a third-party representative to mitigate that contract. And was the given climate with the added patronage and illegal migration coming through, have any of those consequences been involved in the review of this project right here with this water conservation? So those are my questions to that, because I don't see that anywhere in there, is that those full comprehensive reviews of any of the projects are actually taking place, and we're just spending a lot of money to spend money. So
Thank you.
That's my questions. Thank you.
Micah Fornino. Good afternoon, you have 4 minutes.
With regard to water issues, I agree with some of what the previous speakers have said, but have anyone in this room considered that, keep hearing that the council has such foresight. I've said this where I don't see it. We're rapidly approaching, at least in the central Texas area, where water will become more precious to the common person than oil is to the people out in Midland. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a desert environment where water is as valuable as gold, if not more so. Water is life. I'm going to speak on public hearing on this, but adding another 600 homes is going to put further strain on the water system. I mean, we just keep robbing Peter to pay Paul when it comes to water. Now, for the conservation plan, I agree with a measured approach, but all that does not really matter in the end. How are we going to enforce it? I mean, as I was leaving my house this evening, I have neighbors across the street from me. If any of you care to find out, I'll give you the details later. That not only do they consistently water their lawn every day, God is my witness, they water their house. I don't know why, but they water their house. There was water going all the way down to Willow Springs Road by the time I was on my way out. How much of that water really needed to be used? How are we going to enforce it? Are we going to be looking at meter readings based on house occupancy? X number of occupants equals Y number of gallons? I mean, we need to start restricting it because we're not making any more water. All we keep doing is using more water. I mean, we don't have enough code enforcement agents to get people to mow their lawns. I don't know how they're going to have enough people to enforce who's washing their cars, who's watering their lawns. Hey, that lawn looks suspiciously green. I mean, there are people who water their lawns 10, 11, even midnight in my neighborhood. How are you going to enforce that? It's not the police's job. I mean, even if that was an adjunct duty for them, as it is, and it's no fault of the police department. Again, we have resources that are stretched wire thin at this point, to the point of where, just as an observation, I've said it, to where even the police can't just make a random patrol through a neighborhood. They're on the main thoroughfares. They're doing the best they can with what they've got. But as we keep stretching the resources, water will become the biggest issue that Central Texas has. I mean, New York City, by comparison, they've been 50 years now digging aquifer and water supply for the city. They plan the use out, but they still have water restrictions in New York. There's water pressure considerations, everything like that. That's just on contrast. I mean, that was being built before I was born. But when you're talking about the conservation of resources, we need to start doing that now. Or maybe, instead of putting 600 houses someplace, I don't know, build a local reservoir for local use only. You know, we need storage. I don't care if it's cisterns. I don't care if it's tanks. I mean, folks in Afghanistan figured this stuff out 5,000 years ago. Why can't we? I mean, we are not getting any more water. California has the problem where they go through periods of extreme wet weather and then a decade or more of drought. But when they get the water, the overwhelming majority of that water that gets hit in California, especially in Northern California where the valley is and all the farms are, they have no way to store it. All that water just runs right off into the rivers, into the ocean, and it's never to be seen again. We need to plan ahead. That's foresight. That's what we need to be doing. Not adding capacity. We need to bolster and make the infrastructure we have
Thank
right
you.
now more robust.
Mr. James Sear. Good afternoon, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. I appreciate your patience and time today, and even the emails that we've sent to you. So I appreciate that. Right now, I really just want you all to really think about the comprehensive plan, its intent, and the actual need for certain zoning requests as a whole. The comp plan repeatedly discusses that the current way of doing development business in Killeen is not sustainable or attractive. Constantly eating up available land to build externally perceived transient single-family homes is by self-admission in the comp plan no longer paying for themselves. Rezoning property without knowing all the impacts is no longer a viable plan, fiscally or otherwise. The comp plan tells you to preserve unique floodplains and wetlands in the city. It states that these areas are, quote, are critical to the region's ecological and environmental health. They are so far and few between due to recent development. Take a step back and really think outside the box about what this land could be in the future for agriculture, the habitat, and potentially public space. It doesn't need to be another Yal Ranch. It needs preservation and a better strategy. The comp plan wants you to focus on revitalizing downtown, filling and improving existing homes, improving the streets and roadways, and reducing unneeded infrastructure costs. The members up for re-election have constantly stated in your campaigns you want to improve infrastructure, public safety, and community outreach. This is your chance to show them you're serious about these statements. Why would you increase traffic on a road that is out of code? And why would you further deplete limited resources for the residents in that area? From the comp plan, and I'm paraphrasing, for the past 50 years, Killeen has been aggressively building new single-family developments and expanding its service area to the south. This has left the city with more infrastructure and service liabilities than it has the budget to pay for. This has created a constant tension between elected officials, staff, and citizens around priorities and how to best address growing wants and needs of the community with those limited resources. This type of rezoning is exactly the path the comp plan is imploring you to avoid. Rezone based on needs, not niceties. This is the time to show the citizens of Killeen that you actually believe in the comp plan and its intent. Be the change, Show the difference by action, not words, and vote no today on KC 2404. Thank you.
Sue Stoke, the Bose. Good afternoon, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening. I am a resident of Yow Ranch, and I'm not opposed to growth if it comes under the advisement of wise counsel. Killeen has a planning and zoning commission whose job is to advise the city council. Your planning and zoning commission voted unanimously against this rezoning at their meeting last month. In the minutes from their meeting, they mentioned having received multiple letters of opposition with, quote, valid points regarding the sewage and water service capabilities needed for this development. The minutes also mention, quote, concerns raised in 2022 by residents in Yow Ranch regarding water pressure in this area, end quote. Although I have not been involved publicly in this issue until now, I own a home in Yow Ranch with water pressure issues. Some mornings, the shower is a trickle. I heard an expert last week advise you that the proposed new community will be on a different plane than Yow Ranch, so everything will be fine with the water pressure. I assume there were also experts back when Yow Ranch was proposed to the city council saying that everything would be fine in Yow Ranch. Too bad the city council listened to bad advice then, because I feel it every day now. Slow down and fix your current problems rather than adding new ones on top. Moving on to the roads. I understand that you inherited inadequate roadways from the county, including Chaparral, Stagecoach, and Featherline. Yow Ranch residents have no choice but to drive on these inadequate roads every day. You say you have a long-term implementation plan to upgrade and fix them. The word long-term is yet another hint to slow down on this new development. I'll just focus on Featherline. Featherline currently has only 2 lanes, no center lane, no turn lanes, no paved shoulder. The Killeen Police Department is located toward the south end of Featherline, and just around the corner of Featherline and Chaparral is the large new high school. Both entities use the same, currently inadequate, Featherline Road. Featherline is also the main roadway in and out of Yow Ranch, and Featherline would be the main road in and out for the new 600 proposed homes. From my home in Yow Ranch, I often see multiple police cars speeding northbound on Featherline in answer to an emergency call. Due to the lack of road width, cars on Featherline often must pull off the paved roadway just to get out of the way, as well they should. On the other hand, I've heard about the daily nightmare of dealing with the high school traffic. I try to plan my day around avoiding Featherline during before and after school hours, but most Yow residents don't have that luxury. I've seen a neighbor badly rear-ended waiting to turn into Yow Ranch due to a southbound student speeding to school and not paying attention to the roadway ahead of them. I fear the day when a northbound police emergency combines with the southbound high school traffic, even with the current usage level on Featherline. And now you want to add even more cars from 600 new homes that would enter and exit Featherline directly in the middle of that mess. Today, rather than dreading a traffic disaster, I will rejoice when you, the Killeen City Council, listen to the wise counsel of your Planning and Zoning Commission and vote no on the proposed rezoning on Featherline until the area's infrastructure is ready. Thank you for your time.
Chris, Donna. Good afternoon, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I've been a resident living off Llewellyn for 6 years now. My wife fell in love with the home. It's our family home. It's a planned retirement home. But over the past couple years, we've watched the development of Yow Ranch, and the traffic has become atrocious. It wasn't too long ago where myself and my neighbor came home, and there was a car upside down in my driveway. They had attempted to go around the traffic, speeding down Llewellyn, which is pretty much a single-lane road, lost control, kids in the car, upside down. They were okay, thankfully, but instances like that are continuing to happen. We used to be able to walk down the street comfortably. Now it's it's a little dangerous for us to go on an evening walk with my family and our dog because cars go flying by. No one adheres to the speed limit of 35 going down that tiny street. Going back to what other residents said on Featherline, it is impossible for me to get out or come home going to work, exiting Llewellyn on the east side of its exit. There's just too much traffic. The two-lane highway does not support anybody getting out or turning left. And I've been there when the previous resident was talking about that a police car was trying to get by and they couldn't. There was just so much traffic backed up on both ways. They ended up going off the road. However, now they're building a gas station there, which is going to make it even more difficult for residents to get around there. I'm not against progress. Like I'm sure most of these residents aren't. By all means, let's build. The city's going in a great direction. However, Stagecoach has been in disrepair since the major freeze 3 years ago. I've blown 2 tires. I've called the city. The city refused to pay for it, and it's going to keep happening until we get those roads fixed. And again, I understand they're in the works, and roads are very expensive to build, as you all know. But why not make the builders responsible for setting up the infrastructure prior to allowing them to build? Make them pay for the water. Make them pay for the roads before you come out of pocket, or we come out of pocket to pay for that. This is my family's home. Like we plan on staying here for the long haul. We don't plan on going anywhere. We're hoping that you take everything into consideration and disapprove the rezoning until infrastructure can be built and established that will support the community that lives there. Thank you.
Kelly Seals. Good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
I would like to start by saying thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I am here to discuss the rezoning of 194 acres off of Featherline from agriculture to residential. I come before you tonight asking you to vote no to the rezoning of this land the same way that your city's Planning and Zoning Committee did when they unanimously voted 5-0 in opposition of the rezoning. There are a lot of citizens who oppose this rezoning that unfortunately could not be here tonight to speak. I know it has been said by members of the council that traffic is not an issue on Featherline. However, if you would take the time to come out in the morning for the community leaving for work or the children going to school, or in the afternoon for the community coming home or the children leaving school, you would see that this is simply not the case. My son, when schools first started last year and Chaparral opened, he would take Tremere to get to Chaparral due to the immense amount of traffic turning left to Chaparral from Featherline, or people turning left to Featherline from Chaparral. Now the traffic has begun to stack up on Tremere as well. He can no longer take Tremere to get to school. He goes down Stagecoach to East Tremere and comes back the back way to school. You also have Turnbow Ranch that will begin building houses soon if it has not already started. From what I am hearing, Turnbow Ranch will be one of the largest neighborhoods in the area. I cannot imagine the amount of traffic that this will add to both Chaparral and Featherline. It has also been stated that the water pressure issues in Yowell Ranch have been fixed, but in gathering signatures against the rezoning, you can clearly see that there are still people who have issues with their water pressure. Those are the community members that are only within the 200 feet boundary of the rezoning area that we talked to. I can only imagine what the number of people with water pressure issues would have been if we would have reached out beyond the 200-foot boundary. I am asking that you really consider what has been brought before you with the research provided by Mr. Sills and vote no to the rezoning. Thank you for your time.
Don Seals. Good evening. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening. Mayor Nash King responded to Killeen Daily Herald's question. The Killeen 2040 Moving Forward Plan is not just a plan, but a bold commitment to our city's future. It outlines my visionary priorities: safety, residents, infrastructure, economic growth, homelessness, and community partnership, all of which are integral to our city's development. Rezoning seems inevitable. This is evident in the meetings that have occurred for months with the potential developers. Where were the committees that allowed stakeholder input? If area residents should have a say in duplexes being built in single-home developments, why are residents not included in major development projects? I do not believe a 3 to 4 minute public comment acts as our involvement in city development. If our taxpayers are good enough to collect, so should our voices. Rezoning first does not hold the developer culpable in designing an infrastructure that keeps the residents surrounding the development safe. Turnbow Ranch, once developed, will have residents who need to turn right to go to Chaparral High School or JDA Middle School. Then add in 600 homes that will house residents who need to turn left to go to those same destinations. It is a 2-lane road, and it will be expected to handle hundreds of additional cars. What will be the city's response to accidents? Surely the city holds some culpability, as safety is the city's concern. Imagine a child getting injured as there is no plan for sidewalks, no plan for streetlights, no plan to protect the taxpayers whose dollars will gladly be accepted by this city. This city allows Stagecoach to remain a disaster of a road regardless of minefields, potholes we need to evade after a significant thunderstorm. I too have popped a tire, and I too did not receive any compensation from the city. This city is not taking care of what it already has in place, and yet more is being added. All I am asking is that as elected members, you look past the dollar signs and pause on rezoning. When was the last time you drove through the entire district you serve? You were elected under the pretense of serving the citizens of Killeen. It is your obligation to provide the safety and infrastructure that your citizens deserve before you continue to move the hub of Killeen from downtown to Chaparral. Think about that prior to voting for the rezoning. Backwards design is the only effective tool for growth. Force the developers to have a true plan before the area is rezoned. Please vote for no to rezoning today. Thank you.
That is all of the citizens that signed up for citizen comment. Council, do you have anything you would like to say? If not, I would just want to highlight just 2 things real quickly. I thank the residents for coming out and really speaking on that item, PH-24-011. But I just wanted to make it clear, especially for those that are here and also watching, that on that item, the mayor does not have a vote on that. So I don't know if it was misspoken, misinformed. Thank you for highlighting my objectives, but the mayor does not vote on those items. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready. Oh, Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question for our Director for Development Services, Mr. Ravel. I just want to get some clarity on one thing in relation to the traffic impact analysis ordinance. So give him just a moment to step in here for that. Or better yet, we have Ms. Wallace. Awesome.
Good evening.
Good evening. This project, or development rather, would likely trigger a TIA, is that correct?
That's correct.
What is the extent of what could be required from a TIA?
So, and Mr. Zegers is here as well. He's the city engineer, as you know. The TIA is required typically between the preliminary plat and the final plat. And I'll ask him to come up and answer your question more directly.
Sure.
Yeah. So when the preliminary plat, final plat comes in, they're going to do a study to determine whether they need to do a report. Typically, that is done when they go to the permit stage. So they're going to do a traffic impact analysis to determine what their impacts are on the roadways and intersections. So something in this case may require, if they show that they are impacting the roadway, they'll have to mitigate it. One way to mitigate will be turn lanes, center turn lanes, right turn lanes. They may have to look at doing a turn lane at Featherline, possibly at the end where it intersects with Chaparral. But those are all the things that they'll have to analyze at the time. When we know what their development is, we can know what the layouts are, where the entrances are, and then they actually perform a real traffic study.
Thank you, and that's important information to be shared, that it communicates that if it does meet the demands for mitigation measures, they would be required to be implemented in the development. So I just want to make sure that was clear from my understanding, I guess the public as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you. I actually wanted to address one of the other citizens' comments regarding the water and the ordinance updates. It was stated at one of our previous meetings, and maybe Mr. Reynolds can restate the reason why we are updating the amendments to the water drought contingency plan. My understanding is Texas Water, Chapter 11 requires us to do that every 5 years. But I would just like some clarity on that, if you could just restate the reasons, sir, for us as you did in the previous weeks. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct. Chapter 11 of the Texas Water Code, Title 30 of the Texas Administration Code requires the city to submit an updated water conservation plan and drought contingency plan to the TCEQ every 5 years. Our last update was 2019. A lot of the updates you see in here are to align us with the WCID's overarching water conservation plan as well.
Would you say this is no different than other plans like Homeland Security, when they have things that are unified across the board to make sure that we're reporting the same thing, have the same measurements and metrics that we're using to track and report our data and findings?
Absolutely.
So this is a standard process. This is not something that's abnormal to the updates that are required every 5 years.
Yes, ma'am. We purchase our water from WCID, so we want to align with their guidance as they align with the Brazos River Authority with their guidance for us, how that is handled with the public water system.
Thank you.
Councilmember Solomon.
In reference to PH 24011, we're going to be hearing, I'm asking this question, and we're going to be hearing a full presentation again on that in terms of that zone.
Yes, sir. My intention was to present the item when it's time for the actual item.
Okay,
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I just want to reiterate, I thank Councilmember Boyd, Councilwoman Gonzalez, and Councilmember Solomon, because something is said at this podium that doesn't make it true. So for more information, for anyone that's watching or someone that's new to coming to our city council meeting, our city staff, our council members, as you found out, some of you, that when you email us, we will reply back to you. And if you want more information on any item in the future, do a citizen comment, please reach out to our staff, because there are a lot of information that's floating around out there. It is incorrect. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
Discussion items. DS 24030, cybersecurity posture update.
Thank you. Mr. Resto. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm going to be briefing you on our cybersecurity posture. Several council members have mentioned cybersecurity within the budget, and so we felt that we should give you guys an update. I started in May of 2019. Yay! I'm got 5 years here, and we've done a lot of work. And I'm kind of going to brief you on what we've done, some of the technologies that we put in place, and some things that we're going to be going forward with, and some things that that we need to work on. So cybersecurity is a critical aspect of our operations, especially in today's digital landscape. This briefing aims to provide you an overview of our cybersecurity posture, including implemented solutions, ongoing initiatives, and future plans, and then to ensure that we do have our security. So in simple terms, managing cybersecurity means keeping our information safe from the bad guys. We do this by regularly checking for weaknesses, finding out what went wrong, and fixing the problems, and always keeping an eye out for trouble to make things better. First of all, we try to stop the bad stuff from even happening in the first place. We put up digital walls like firewalls and encryption to keep hackers out of our system. But sometimes, even with our best efforts, hackers do manage to sneak in, but not on my watch since I've been here. So we have tools that help us spot these troublemakers early. It's like having a security guard watching us, all the suspicious activity. And if something does go wrong, we need a plan to bounce back. So we use backups to restore any lost data and reset our systems to how they were before the attack.
I'm going to cover some of the tools that we have in place, the Cisco Umbrella, Cohesity backups, Barracuda email security, gateway, and network monitoring tools. These things you've probably seen me present to you as we were going through our normal budgets to put in place these new technologies. And these help us to detect problems quickly and recover fast when something happens. So this first item is one of the tools that we use, is Cisco Umbrella, and it uses the cloud access security. And if you look at this diagram, you will see that all this happens out here before it ever touches our network. So it's checking everything from domain layers, domain name spoofing, our secure gateway. It's checking our firewall, which we have there as a software firewall. And then it's also looking at this interactive threat. It actually has a list of bad actors, IP addresses that we know are no good, and we keep those out of our system. The next item that we put in place was our Cohesity backup. Now, the Cohesity backup, the unique thing about this is that we can instantly restore mass data in a timely manner. And believe it or not, we do that weekly with some people who lose files. We have to restore. We also have some other systems. So this system is tested. The thing that I want to point out here is that in this part is an immutable backup. Once that data is backed up to this machine, it cannot be changed. So we have a solid backup plan for that. But it also detects. So it looks at the backups and look at some of that files that we have, and it looks and see, is there any ransomware in there? Is there any, and it'll prompt us for that. That prompting helps us to keep our systems more secure. Our next item that we have put in place is our Barracuda backup. Now everybody knows about email, so here it is. And it's coming in to our system. We're checking it for denial of service. We're checking it for viruses. We're checking it for anti-spam. It goes all the way through to our email server, and then we get our email. One of the unique things about this one is that we actually check the link that is in your email. So if you got a link, and that's usually how you're going to get it. You say, click here. That link will not, you can't click it because the system already marked it and said this is a bad thing. And what it'll do is it'll tell you, hey, you need to call the IT department. This link is not good, and we'll check it to make sure. On the other side of that coin, when we send an email out of the city, we check to make sure. So rate control is, so an example would be the chief, all of a sudden, 1,000 emails start coming from his PC. Well, obviously that's not normal, so why is he sending hundreds of emails out? So we're going to check to see how the rate is going. It'll prompt us and saying that lets us know that he's probably got some malware on his machine. But we'll also check it for viruses because we don't want to be the city that is sending emails out that has viruses in them. So it goes through, again, all through this. And then we can also encrypt this email so when we're sending it in a secure environment. Our next tool that we have is our network performance monitor. And those of you that have been into our building, you've seen me point up to a screen. And basically what this tool allows us, it scans our whole network, everything that's connected. So every building that we have, every point to point, we check those. Every computer, everything that's connected via network, it will monitor that. Let us know whether it's working. So like here, it would be red. That tells us we've got a connection issue here. It would send us an email 24/7 to our network team, and our network team would be able to diagnose what that issue is. But at the same time, it also checks to say, hey, your disk drive is at 10%. It's only got 10% left. So we're checking those as well. So we're checking all our devices, and this technology allows us to monitor that efficiently by sending the emails, and then we act on the issue that might be there. Some of the ongoing initiatives, a couple which you already are aware of, that we're moving away from some of these legacy applications like Naviline and our PDRMS systems. Again, to modernize our infrastructure, give us some better tools. One of the things I do want to point out in this particular one is that those items are no longer, they're not even here in the city. We have them outside on the East Coast and the West Coast as another part of protection. So it's backed up on the East Coast and West Coast, and they're not even in our infrastructure. So our financial systems and our human resources systems, our payroll systems are not even here. And so it's less vulnerable for attack. We have a cyber security incident handling plan. I created that when I first got here. We go through that annually and we review it. And what's in that plan is basically, hey, what do you do when something happens? So this plan allows us, we have all the phone numbers in there. So we call the mayor, we call the city manager, we call Texas DIR, and it goes through. And it's in a book, because if it's on our network and our network's encrypted, guess what? We have no plan. We'll be exercising this plan again next month. I do work with with Peter in the EOC. So that he helps me emergency management to run through some scenarios. So we run through a whole case on what do we do when X, Y, and Z happen. So we call it a tabletop exercise, and we run through the exercise, and again, refreshes us. And then we do that every year while we're here. We also have annual cybersecurity training that's required by the Texas DIR, but we also do other things inside the city. I sent out a monthly newsletter to all the employees to say, hey, here are some things that are going on. We also have some games in there with some prizes to encourage them to put back practices. In our email desktop, there is a thing called Fish, and there's a fish that sits there. It's called Catch the Fish. So if they get a phishing email and they catch the fish and it sends an email to us, we actually kind of reward them and saying, hey, you did good. You caught 10 fishes in a month. Those that don't catch a fish, it sends them a message and say, that wasn't a fish. So fishing exercises is something that we do every month. And then we do a bigger campaign when it comes around to October. But training, can emphasize, is probably the key to all of our cybersecurity. Training our employees to what to click on, what to notice, see anomalies. Now, it's actually going beyond the electronics now. It's going into phone calls. It's going into, I think the mayor, you sent a lot of emails out that says you need money and can you buy all these gift cards? I'm sure you've seen them. And unfortunately, we've had a couple employees bite on that. So we're always trying to train this employee to stop, to look and think on all these. So the campaigns that we run is critical.
And for the record, I actually don't send that out. Explain that in more detail.
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
Please.
It's a phishing because they don't even have your email. Their name is not spelled right. All the signs are right there, but they call mayor, and the email is from something.google.com or something. It's not even from a city email. But that's how it has become in our world. Some of the things that we are doing, we did a regular security assessments. We try to do this every year or when we make some changes. We just completed our network assessment, and actually we passed it with pretty good standings. Where a couple of things that we got to mitigate. But that's also having an outside person coming in, looking at us instead of us looking at it. They come in and they go through our system. They went through our email server. They went through all our network settings, and that helps. We also collaborate with external resources. So every month or every quarter, we meet with Texas DIR security people. So we have a monthly meeting. We also have a quarterly meeting with them, and then we have a monthly meeting with MSISAC, which is the multi-city information security group. So we have security meetings all the time. We also attend the conferences that are specifically designed for security, and I send our network security teams to that. And we do our own internal training and internal checks as well. So trying to stay up with everything as much as possible. We get monthly emails, sometimes daily emails, from the government that tells us, hey, block this IP address because it's a bad actor. Or we get emails that says, hey, you need to patch this on your system. So we're constantly collaborating with all our external partners to keep our city safe. And at this time, I'll entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you, but could you please clarify one more time slowly?
You
That the
do-
mayor do not
Not-
send out email.
No, it's an imposter that sends the
Thank
emails
you.
in your name trying to get us employees to follow something.
Thank
And-
you. 'Cause they will
But I
run
hope
with that.
hope you've got a good idea of what we're doing. There are a lot more things that we are doing, and we're continually being vigilant in fighting all of the cybersecurity. And I do want to thank you, council, because you gave the investment in this. So over time, you've invested since I've been here, $26 million. And this is an investment into technology to make sure we have all the equipment that we need. So I appreciate it because you made my job a lot easier by supporting these efforts. And you can see through what we've done that we're in good shape. We got better equipment here. I did say back in 2019 that my main objective was to bring the technology swagger back, and we're almost there. A few
Thank
more
you.
things.
Thank
We'll be on
you.
top.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you for the presentation. Cybersecurity and just Homeland Security, just general emergency management is one of the top priorities for me, so I appreciate you always answering the questions and making sure I have a clear understanding, and now thank you for sharing that with the rest of our community. It's nice to know that we're in good hands and that you guys are staying on top of it, because what's happening in the world around us, this is very important to know that we are safe and that we're protected, our information is protected. So again, just thank you for bringing the swag back and then helping us understand and making it easy to understand how we're able to keep ourselves in good standing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you.
Thanks.
Consent agenda, Madam Secretary.
MN 24008, consider minutes of regular city council meeting of March 19, 2024. MN 24009, consider minutes of regular city council meeting of March 26, 2024. RS 24069, consider a resolution memorandum authorizing a contract with Faster Asset Solutions for fleet management software in an amount of $148,540. RS 24070, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a master software agreement with Civic Plus in the amount of $87,114 for FY24. RS 24071, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the city manager to sign an agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation Aviation Division for the administration of an airport terminal program grant for the new terminal building at Skylark Field. RS 24072, consider a memorandum resolution renewing the agreement with Patillo, Brown, and Hill LLP to provide independent auditing services for the city of Killeen for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2024. RS 24073, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a letter of agreement with Rice Inspection, Inc. for construction inspection on 3 water and sewer capital improvement plan projects in an amount of $328,328. RS 24074, consider a memorandum resolution procuring services from Commercial Swim to repair damage to the Killeen Family Aquatic Center pump room equipment in an amount not to exceed $250,000. OR 24003, consider an ordinance amending Chapter 19 in the City of Killeen Code of Ordinances to rename the Recreation Services Advisory Board to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. OR 24004, consider an ordinance amending the Chapter 30, Article 1 of the Killeen Code of Ordinances, providing for an update to the Water Conservation and Drought Contingency Plan.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? My system went down. Could you please raise your hand? Councilmember Solomon.
I move that we approve the consent items.
Councilmember, either one. Gonzalez.
A second.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Well, would you raise your, oh, yeah, I can see it there. It's 4-0. Councilmember Boyd is here, but he did not vote on this item. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
Public hearings. PH 24011, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by TCG Engineering on behalf of GWC Holdings LLC and McLean Commercial Limited, case number Z2404, to rezone approximately 195.04 acres out of the W.H. Cole Survey, abstract number 200, from A Agricultural District to R1 Single Family Residential District. The subject property is generally located on the west side of Featherline Drive, west of the intersection of Malmason Road, Killeen, Texas. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance amending the City of Killeen zoning ordinance by amending the zoning of approximately 195.04 acres out of the W.H. Cole Survey, abstract number 200, from A Agricultural District to R1 Single Family Residential District, providing a savings clause, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date."
Thank you. Good evening, Mrs. Mesher.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, this item is for your consideration on a request to rezone approximately 195 acres located on the west side of Featherline from agricultural to R1 single family. The red star on your screen indicates the location of that property. This aerial shows the boundary of the property. As you can see, it's located on the west side of Featherline. It's currently undeveloped. And as you know, TCG Engineering has submitted the request, as I said, to rezone approximately 195.04 acres from Ag to R1. If approved, the applicant's intent is to develop approximately 600 detached single-family homes on the property. This is a view of the subject property looking north, a view of the subject property looking south, this is a view of looking east across Featherline Road from the subject property, and a view of the subject property facing west. Property is currently designated residential mix on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. The residential mix place type promotes up to 25% non-residential and up to 95% residential uses. Staff does find that the applicant's request is consistent with the residential mix place type. Subject property is also designated controlled growth on the growth sector map of the comprehensive plan. This sector includes areas in the city limits that have access to city infrastructure in close proximity. As was pointed out last week, and I'll point out again, the controlled growth sector does not mean no growth. It just means that new growth should be evaluated for its adherence to the big ideas and the recommendations of the comprehensive plan, particularly those related to housing and neighborhood options, and those that improve the fiscal health and sustainability of the city. So in this case, we've evaluated the applicant's request and find that it does adhere to those big ideas and that it is fiscally sustainable. And again, these are some of the goals that are outlined in the comp plan that this development would further. So LU1 is using place types as complete neighborhoods and building blocks. NH4 speaks to building complete neighborhoods, and goal MC3 speaks to improving network connectivity. Property is located within Killeen Development Zone number 8. Below is on the bottom of your screen is a breakdown of the uses within Development Zone number 8. So you can see it's currently roughly 47% residential, 5% commercial, and 34% ag. We did notify 198 surrounding property owners regarding this request. And to date, we've received 29 written responses in opposition to this request. That opposition does account for 26.6% of the 200-foot notification boundary, which typically would trigger the 3/4 majority requirement at council. In this case, the P&Z also voted in opposition, so that 3/4 majority requirement is triggered anyway. This map represents those 29 letters of opposition that were received. So you can see the red stars on the screen indicate each of the letters of opposition that have been received. Again, staff does find that the applicant's request is consistent with the recommendations that are outlined in the Killeen 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and staff is of the determination that approval of the applicant's request will have no negative impacts on the surrounding properties. All requirements regarding water and wastewater infrastructure, drainage, and traffic will be addressed during the platting phase of the development. So again, the request tonight is just for approval of the land use request. So staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request to rezone the property to R1. As you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended disapproval of the request by a vote of 5-0, and in accordance with Section 3139E of the Code of Ordinances, the approval of this request does require the favorable vote of 3/4 of all members of the City Council, so that's 6 affirmative votes. Since there are only 5 voting members of the City Council here tonight, the applicant has requested that the council postpone this item until your next meeting.
Granted.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Could you go back to the items that fall within the comprehensive plan? It was a slide that you have. Just trying to see that based on y'all decision. And then follow just that slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Councilmember Cigar.
Well, first off, that was going to be my question, because we didn't know if we can vote tonight or not. And so you're saying we cannot?
My recommendation would be that you would not, because it can't pass tonight at all. It doesn't even have the opportunity to pass because it has to have the affirmative vote of 6, and you don't even have 6 council members here.
I just needed clarification on that, because I didn't know if it was the council present or councils, all of the council here, so.
3/4 of all of council.
Of the
So you
council.
have to have 6 affirmative
Yeah,
votes.
so that kind of solves everything right there. So it kind of takes it out of our hands, and we just got to come back and, do we have to make a recommendation to table this or something, or is it
We
automatic?
still have to go through the public hearing and everything, and then it will be tabled. The council can bring a date, it'll come back.
Okay, all right.
Council.
Well, I'll go ahead and ask my questions here, and, number one, I think that, the citizens that spoke, I wrote, all their questions and things like that, but it seems like their biggest concern is the traffic there on Featherline, and just for future plans, is this something that is up to the council to improve Featherlines, or there's anything in the works that we're going to improve Featherlines that you know of?
Not at this time, no. I don't know where Andrew is, but so typically the way the TIA works is that the applicant. Thank you. The TIA is a function of the platting process. So as you know, the request tonight, the action that's being requested tonight is just for approval of the land use. Following, should the council approve the R1 request, the applicant would submit a preliminary plat for the entire 195 acres, and that would show the layout of the streets and the lots and the proposed ingress and egress, and it would also show the phasing plan. And from there, begin working on a TIA. The TIA will indicate whatever mitigation is required, and then they'd move on to the final plat.
And if it does require, that's something that we as council can plan. My line here is, for future planning. And you're not going to build 600 homes in 1 year. That's going to take probably 10 years, to get 600 homes in there. If you build,
Right. That's it.
yeah, believe me, I did the numbers this morning, and it's like we've slowed down quite a bit. And so it may take some time. And so trying to figure out a timeline, we've been here before, and it's funny because we were here when they did not want Yale Ranch. And it's funny, the people in Yale Ranch now don't want this. So the people that spoke before didn't want the people that live in the Yale Ranch today to be there. And when we did that, when the council did that back then, it was a planning process. We had to do stage go. There was a lot involved, just like what we're doing today. There is plans in place, for Cunningham, we already know that. And by the time, all this is done, I'm trying to figure out, there'll be roads, there'll be turning lanes. Because sometimes, somebody had mentioned, why did we not plan for Cunningham way back then? And if we had, we would probably be here listening to reasons as to why we shouldn't have done that. And so we seem to always try to play catch up. But my question was on Featherline, so I appreciate that. I know that there's going to be a TAA done, and I think that there's a lot of planning involved yet to be done through the zoning and stuff. So I think that we'll be able to kind of work with all of this. And, at this point, I am supportive of it. So with that said, I'm done. Thank you.
To answer your question?
Go ahead, yes.
So we have the short-term plans, short-term type improvements are usually done by a TIA, which is triggered by the development. So any of their mitigations that they have to do, that they're effective to the road based on that development or the requirement of that developer. The city does have a few outdated plans that we're having to update, and we're looking at it for master transportation plans. Those are the capital improvements. That's the widening of Tremere, the widening of Featherline, Onion, all these streets that as growth is developing, the city has to provide that growth, similar to what we did with the water and sewer plan. We do that for roadways. So long-term, yes, there is a plan that we need to look at as the city's grown in that area to increase and improve our roadways to account for those amenities that are lacking. The turn lanes, the bike lanes, or if we use bike lanes, or sidewalks and drainage and all those other features that we do to improve the road. The amount of lanes are going to be triggered by really the amount of traffic that's out there. We're not just going to go out and blatantly throw a 5-lane road like that was done in the past and hope people, build out there and we'll have a lot of traffic. Going forward, we're going to do it right. We're going to build the right road for the right size, the right time. What usually triggers the planning and when it happens is on funding. These are not cheap projects. That's going to be a $20-30 million project. Chaparral, we're under design right now. That cost for that entire 6.5 miles of roadway is getting close to $100 million. Where are we going to find the funding? So we have to get it on the plan. We got to get it moving forward, get a design, and then we look for funding. Grant funding, do we look at bonds? I mean, those are all things that the council is going to have to decide in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And I think that it's up to us, as a city and stuff to make that, planning. But unfortunately, we only plan when there's a need. And so it's like, let's go ahead and fix Featherline. Well, nobody wants to do that because there's not a need. So unfortunately, I always say, that's the challenge as leaders, is trying to plan growth. Because you can never plan ahead because nobody wants to pay for that if you don't need it. And then when you need it, why didn't you pay for it when you should have done it? So we're always in a catch-22. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Segarra. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you. Understanding this is a rezoning for this particular area, and a lot of the concerns that the citizens had, which were valid, will be addressed during the plating phase. For general understanding of this process, because it sometimes can be kind of confusing because it seems a little out of order, but since we're going to discuss in the plating phase what's actually needed for this development, can you kind of tell us what happens if? So for example, the traffic impact analysis, or let's just say there's these requirements that are set forth by the developer that have to be done, and they're not able to do it. They're not able to move forward with the project. Is that correct? Or what does that look like?
Right. So again, Right now, the item before you tonight is the land use.
Understood.
And from there, they would submit a preliminary plat, which will show the overall layout of the entire property under common ownership, so the whole 195 acres. And it'll show how that'll lay out, the phasing plan, the layout of the streets and the lots, and the ingress and egress. It'll also specify how they're meeting the parkland dedication requirements. So there's a ratio of parkland dedication based on the number of lots. So they'll have to either indicate whether they're setting that aside or if their intent is to pay the fee in lieu of dedication, and that'll be noted on the preliminary plat. From there, the preliminary plat will get reviewed and approved for conformance with our standards. Staff will review it, make a recommendation to planning and zoning. If planning and zoning agrees that it meets all of our requirements, they're obligated to approve it, so it would get approved by P&Z at that point. And then from there, we would begin review of the construction plans. So that's when we would look at the drainage and the traffic and the design of the streets and the sidewalks and the infrastructure. Would all get reviewed at that time, and then they come back with the final plat for the first phase. And then the same for each subsequent phase.
And in a situation like this, if there's a hefty requirement that is placed because of the findings and when you guys do these investigations, and the developer, for whatever reason, is not able to adhere to that, does the plan die at that point if they're not able to get approval from if they're not able to meet the requirements?
Yes, ma'am.
Just in general, yes, please.
At any phase at any stage in the process, if the applicant is unable to meet the city's requirement, it doesn't move forward. So we will always work with the applicant to, find a solution, if there is one. If there isn't one, then it won't move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember, thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As far as this being tabled, how soon would this come back, or could it come back? Is it required to come back at a regular meeting or a workshop?
To vote on it would need to be a meeting.
Regular meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Councilmember Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just understand, I really feel that in terms of what the citizens, their concerns, and especially dealing with this traffic, and not only the traffic, but it was mentioned about the water pressure. So what are we doing to address the water pressure? Does it fits, is it a whole nother plane?
Councilmember Solomon, it's in Yao Ranch. This is just land use right now. So when we get to the next phase, that's when she can talk about that, but that's not the use.
You can't talk about it now?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, it's just those concerns that we definitely need to address, the water pressure, and I know we're going to talk about it later, but the traffic as well, because you're talking about a two-lane where the headquarters of the police department is at, and you're talking about the largest high school in the area. So it's a big concern for everybody. Thank you.
And Councilmember Solomon, that's something that you can also request staff to brief or give a discussion on that area whenever you want to. You can put it on the agenda and send it up tomorrow, and we can get it on the agenda so you can get all your questions answered. And I thank you for looking out for the residents because they are concerned about the pressure. So all you have to do is put it on the agenda and we can discuss it in detail.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That's it. We have one more. Councilmember Alvarez, do you have anything to say? Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Is the applicant here, and would he or she like to speak? Good evening, sir. Would you please state your name for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Scott Cosper. I am representing the owners of the property for this zoning case, and I just want to reiterate, we had a pretty lengthy discussion during the workshop last week, and I think a lot of questions were answered at that time. But I just want to remind, this is a land use case, and we're focused on the land use portion of this. And as the applicants, we have patiently waited while the city worked through updating their, their land use maps, the comprehensive plan, implemented certain fees that go along with development as well as parkland dedication. And it's our intention to comply with all of that. Most of the other people that have already live in areas that have already been developed, none of that was required. And so we're going an extra mile, which is by ordinance required, but we're going an extra mile meeting those requirements. And so I just want to make that to be known. But all of the issues that have been brought up related to the engineering and the plating, we're looking forward to working with staff and complying with all of your ordinances, all of the requirements, to bring forward a good project that we can all be proud of. And so that's just kind of where I want to leave that, is that we have met with staff numerous times and have already talked through some of the issues that will most likely be coming forward in the future. We're not trying to dodge those. We intend to hit them head on and to work with staff and to do our part. Now, we certainly can't shoulder the burden of all of the development that's already happened and the schools that have already been built and the mud that's going to be built. That's not our responsibility. But what is our responsibility is this case, and we're certainly willing to work with you and with staff to do our part to shoulder our responsibility. And so, obviously, as the attorney's already mentioned, there's not a full staff of council members here tonight, so we are requesting that you table this item until the next city council meeting. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I think we answered or tried to answer most of those last week in the workshop, but I'm here if there are more.
No, sir, there are not any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you all for the work.
I do have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did planning and zoning turn this down?
So I can't speak for them, but I can give my opinion. My opinion is that they got hung up on the plating issues that were like water and sewer capacity and traffic and parkland and all of those issues that are addressed in the next step. It's my opinion that that's the only thing that was discussed. So that's what I'm basing my opinion on, is that they got hung up on those items rather than focusing on this as a land use case and how it represents or how it compares to the land use map and the comprehensive plan that we've already mentioned, that we've exhaustively spoke with staff about meeting those requirements. But that's my opinion, is that they got a little ahead of themselves and were focused on the engineering and plating part.
And you hadn't even gotten to that phase because you got to get through the land use first.
100%, yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Open up for public hearing. Sean Price.
Hi. So back again. So my question is, with this project, the actual loss in aggregate agricultural use, right? I think the slide showed 34%, but what was the actual use for that agricultural? Did we produce foods or anything like this out of that land, or was it simply a grazing area for livestock or anything like this? And what does that impact in the loss of the capability of having farm to market usage out of this land? Because to me, it's overdevelopment. We're overdeveloping, we're taking away, and we're losing our ability to provide for ourselves with the area that we have around us. So not only that, the environmental impact is lacking of oversight. There's a lot of small animals in this area, and it's going to be taken away, right? So we have that in my neighborhood with raccoons and possums and everything else. You know, the red-tailed hawk and all this is all losing habitat, and this is a habitat area currently because it's under agricultural, so it's well used and not utilized civically or socially through neighborhoods or anything like this. So that's a loss, and we're losing that, and it's going away. So we're becoming more barren of any kind of wildlife environment. And that's my statement with with doing this. Is just not a good project in that manner. Thank you.
James Seal.
So just real quick, I do understand a TIA is after the zoning. I think the point is that you don't need to rezone to understand that this property is not ready to be platted for 600 homes. And I think that's the point. But basically, you know, the city staffs try to minimize the issues on Featherline Road with the average daily traffic. They stated a 2-lane road can handle 1,900 vehicles per hour. I'll pose this question to all of you. If a 2-lane road is so efficient, safe, and practical, then why did Stagecoach Road, which only had 300 more average daily traffic, have to be redone to a 5-lane road, right? Why is the city wasting money and resources for a 2-lane county road with roadside ditches if it can handle 45,000 vehicles a day? Because it's not just about volume. It's about building a road that'll service multiple ingress and egress points, provide waste and groundwater runoff, and provide safe pedestrian pathways and crossing locations. They've already said it's going to cost $20 million. The developer just told the landlord they're not going to pay for that, right? You don't need a traffic impact analysis to tell you that it's not going to work. The Featherline Road in 2014, Mr. Cosper himself, who was then mayor, he signed a resolution that made Featherline Road a minor arterial road, which is a 5-lane road. He signed that, and within 5 years, that road was supposed to be complete. That was in 2014. We're 10 years later. On your 24 to 28 budget, there's no funding for Featherline Road at all. So you're talking at least till 2029 before you touch this road, regardless of what you do today. And no one's going to pay for that but the city. As far as water pressure, Mr. Ravel was correct about the water supply path. The property's on an upper plane, Yow Ranch is on a lower plane. But I hope you know that the upper plane feeds the lower plane for water pressure, okay? So when you have this upper plane like a jug of water feeding a lower jug, you poke 600 holes in it, right? Something's going to happen. They're losing water, they're losing pressure. You add gas stations, you add commercial, all those things are going to reduce this upper plane, which is going to have an effect on the lower plane, regardless. In closing, you know, I've said a lot and emailed you a lot, right? And I'm speaking on behalf of the 30 other people that couldn't make it here, okay? So just imagine there's 30 other people here. I really hope you understand and take to heart of our concerns. We live there. We drive this road. We have the water pressure issues. They're going to keep telling you it's a rezoning because they know once you rezone this land, it's not turning back. That's why the city couldn't answer your question, right? It's not going to go back to agriculture. They plat it, they figure out they need $20 million for a road. It's just like in 2014 with Turnbow Ranch and Chaparral. Turnbow Ranch was never supposed to break ground until Chaparral Road was 4 lanes. And you were supposed to get paid $4 million for that. And it never happened. You're opening Pandora's box. That's why they want to push you to rezone this. Because you can't turn back. Regardless of what the plat says. They will put something there. Whether we like it or you like it, it doesn't matter. I really implore you to really disapprove this request. And I know that's not tonight. But think about it. Really think about your citizens, the people that are there. Can I request more time? 1 more minute, please.
Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Yes. Yes, sir. Madam Secretary, would you please reset 1 minute for him? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As stated with the water pressure, Mr. Ravel told you that was years ago. Half the people that signed that petition are telling you the water pressure issues are today. And again, it's not going to get better. I showed you in my report, all the way through 2029, those water pressure issues will still be there. Regardless of what you do in Turnbow Ranch, regardless of the pump upgrade, they will still have low water pressure, upper plane and lower plane. And again, Featherline Road is not there. You have kids walking to school, trying to get to the high school, walking on dirt and mud because there's no sidewalks. There's no safety for them. So I really just want you to think about, there's no need, there's no hurry. Why do you have to do this now? Fix Featherline, fix the infrastructure, then come back to the table with this. Thank you so much for your time.
Micah for Nino.
Or to the point, you've heard from the citizens who actually live there, and you've heard from the Planning and Zoning Commission on this, or committee. I would submit to compare and contrast. We've seen this movie before. With Rosewood, we had studies and all that, and that's going to reduce the traffic problems there by raising the speed limit. That didn't happen. There were studies and projections and all the expert opinion and spreadsheets that said that Bunny Trail Estates is going to be a crown jewel and everybody's going to love living there. Well, the road there is falling apart, and you already see the problem with Los Alamitos and Bunny Trail every day. That complaint hasn't gone away. The problem has not been solved. Now, you have residents who are foreshadowing, hey, it's bad now, why make it worse and continue to add to the load? Please listen to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Listen to the people who actually live there. I don't know how much more plain anybody can make it that spoke before me that is going to be immediately and directly affected by that. I will agree that at some point, maybe it can be developed into something, but why does it have to be R1? Why does it have to go to single-family homes? That many acres? What have we been asking for in this town? Aside from a grocery store, how many companies hire to retire? That land can be used for other things. Leave it open. Or if you decide to go against the planning and zoning, go against the residents who live there, who can speak directly to issues that they face every single day, all right, come up with a measured plan maybe. 20 houses this year, 10 in a year and a half, something. Measured growth that you can control. I mean, there's been a problem and a culture in this town for as long as I've been here where everything goes to, and the technophiles, if you know Moore's Law, M-O-O-R-E', Moore's Law, where things tend to accelerate and double. I mean, it gets out of control. There's no need for it. I mean, so in the calmest way possible, listen to the people who live there. They can address and speak to the problems as they are now, as they live it day to day to day. That's not so much to ask. I mean, I would argue on their behalf that most of you don't know. Go out and see it for yourself. You know, get in touch with some of the people who said, don't do this. Say, okay, what time do I need to be and where do I need to be? And see it for myself. See it through your eyes. You're supposed to represent. So that's what I would recommend doing. I'm not against the people who own the land making a buck off of their investment. That, I mean, an honest dollar is an honest dollar. But I mean, for crying out loud, there's got to be some restraint. I mean, there's a lot of people who, which I am thoroughly thrilled to see other people up here tonight, you know, with many more points that can be made in one person's 4 minutes. Many other points were made, okay, with regard to that. Get in touch with the citizens. Go out there, see it for yourselves. That's the only way you're really going to get the realistic stuff, because on a spreadsheet, on a map, yeah, I can make anything look good. Anybody else can make anything look good. But see it for yourselves. Talk to the people. Get to know the town. That's been the problem. That's the thinking that we need to break the back on around here to get some true progress. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Boyd.
Public hearing closed.
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm asking, is the public hearing closed?
No, sir. No, sir, we got some more.
Okay, I'll let the rest of the folks speak.
Okay, yes, sir.
Rest of our citizens.
Okay, you want to save yours, okay. Cameron Cochran.
I need to set this down so I can give you a round of applause. Thanks for allegedly two people not being here that said on the city council that now has to delay this approval or disapproval. Congratulations. Then you waited an hour and a half to tell us, as we sat in the audience, oh, this won't be discussed or approved or anything at this meeting. Thanks for showing up, for basically doing nothing for us. I don't live in this area, but I drive down that road all the time. I can tell you that my own eyeballs tell me there's a traffic problem there. My own eyeballs tell me that one end there's going to be a new gas station with, of course, a car wash. My own eyes tell me that the other end there's a convenience store with a gas station and, yes, another car wash. For anyone counting, that's car wash 49 and car wash 50 for the city of Killeen. Let's discuss another problem. The city council apparently is asking the person who petitioned, what do you think? You're setting up yourself for developers overriding the city's own planning and zoning commission. They disapproved it, but you don't care about what they think. You want to override them. Yes, you as part-time real estate members, developers, have more knowledge on the city council than your planning and zoning commission, I guess. You are smart enough to not have two people show up so you can delay this until after the election. Smart of you, delaying this until after the election. Let's move on. This listing that we've been talking about, major road construction updates, Bunny Trail, Stagecoach, William Springs Road, Chaparral Road, Rancheria Avenue. These have been in the works for 8 years. You want to wait till you approve this and then have people wait 8 years again for other roads? I guess people just are gullible. Let me reiterate, you're creating a food desert for these 600 homes. I averaged about 2,000 people that's going to live there. This problem is something you're creating. You cannot pawn this off on somebody else and say, sorry, I didn't know that was going to happen. Sorry, I didn't know there was a traffic jam. Sorry, I never seen the children trying to get to school or anybody else trying to get through the streets. You are creating the problem. You are the one not following the 2040 comprehensive plan. You are the one going to be responsible for this mess. I know we're not approving it tonight. It's probably going to be tabled. Sad to say when you have people show up here and don't tell them until an hour and a half into the meeting.
Melissa Brown.
So this is in a controlled growth zone, and as I've heard, controlled growth does not mean no growth, but there is growth happening there. This council has approved multiple housing divisions out in that area. Thousand Oaks is a prime example that is going to be utilizing the same traffic routes to get back and forth across the city. They're also using Chaparral High School. You've got Turnbow Ranch that is coming, even though it's not in the city limits, it's something that the city council years ago approved. And there are 3,400 houses coming there, whether we like it or not. In fact, all of their phasing of plating has been finished. You need to think about the cumulative effect of the decisions that are being made. So when it comes to diversity of housing, how many R1 housing areas do we have in the city? How many SR1s? How many AR1s? I guarantee you, we have far fewer SR1s and AR1s and R1s. And SR1, if you don't know, is suburban residential single family. That means no more than 3.5 homes per acre. And AR1 is an agricultural residential. That means no more than 1 home per acre, which might be more fitting because we don't have those housing types. You also have to think about the first responder strain. The council will have no say over the plating. And if the minimum requirements are met for design, then P&Z must approve it. And 600 houses is a minimum best case scenario on 195 acres. There is no way that this council can guarantee it will only be 600 houses. If it's approved and this particular developer cannot meet all of the requirements, any other developer can come in and put as many single-family homes on this 200 acres as they would like to. I'd also like to point out that we will need to expand Featherline, Tremere, Chaparral, and Stagecoach. That those costs for oversizing are going to be borne by the city. The developer has said it himself, the TIA is only a proportional share. They are not going to pay for the development that's already there for Yowl Ranch, for 2 schools and a third one coming soon in Yowl Ranch, for Thousand Oaks, for everything that has gone on out there. They are, for our police station, they are not going to foot the bill for all of that. When new homes were approved in 2018 on Reese Creek at Goodnight Ranch, they already had an issue with traffic and roads there. There was no money identified to oversize it then, and there still is no money to oversize it. This particular developer is telling us that they intend to comply. They're going the extra mile by meeting the current development standards and the ordinances and the regulations. I don't see that as being any kind of benefit that we should give them extra props for. That's just called following the law. It's the cost of doing business because the taxpayers have to pay that cost regardless. To quote City Manager Ron Olson back in 2018, when the Reese Creek and Goodnight Ranch issue was in front of the council, he said, if you can't get to the point of saying we are going to pay, then don't do the zoning. Mr. Cosper was right. Ask yourself if 200 acres of R1 is appropriate now and at that location. Again, you can go more stringent on this. I would also say to the council that why wait another 2 weeks? Because if even 2 council members are willing to do the right thing and vote no to this, you can do it tonight. Why put that extra weight on the citizens who've been waiting for months, on the developer who says that they've been waiting for years? Or
Shanika Clark, your
if I
time is
could
up.
just have my one last minute, please.
Your time is up.
If I could have one more minute, please.
Councilmember Boyd, no.
Oh, we're going to do this where we do it
Okay,
for one
thank
person
you.
and not another.
Shanika
So give it
Clark.
3 more weeks and let 4 more people
Ma'am, your
sit up
time,
here.
ma'am, your time is up. Ma'am, your time is up. Shanika Clark. How are you doing, ma'am? It's my first time seeing you, and I apologize for what you just had to witness. You have 4 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I live in Yowl Ranch. I've been there since 2017. I was one of the last houses to go up there. There is a lot of houses over there where I live. I'm not really familiar with Featherline. As you can tell, I'm a little nervous. I'm not really familiar with Featherline, but I did hear of the residents that live in Yowl Ranch. Of course, there is a lot of traffic that goes through there, and they were speaking on the water pressure. Yes, we do have issues with the water pressures there too. Sometimes in the morning, you got to be the first one to take a shower, or if not, you have like very little water coming out. People water their grass, and it's a lot that goes on with the water over there. Now, a lot of houses coming into that area that will put pressure on Yowl Ranch. As I did hear someone say, when Yowl Ranch went up, whoever that did not want Yowl Ranch there, I believe they felt the pressure too. I'm not against or for. I'm just here because they did speak. They did tell us that there was going to be a meeting, and we were all, and some people from Yowl Ranch should come. So that's one of the reasons why I came. But I did want to make sure that when you do go make your suggestion, either yay or nay, just consider Yowl Ranch. If you live there, what would you want? How would you feel about the water pressure and the traffic and your children and your animals and having to deal with day to day that we deal with there? It's pressure on us as residents every day, but then you will have more coming in. But what would you want there? What if we had a car wash there that made a lot of noise? You know, what if we had an apartment complex where it was a lot of apartments and they were high up, like on Rancier and on W.S. Young? So you have to consider that. If the houses don't go there, something has to go there. That land is not going to sit there like that. And so that is something that I'm just considering. And I wanted to get up and just say that it can't sit there like that. Something has to go in that land. And if you do oppose or disoppose, whichever way it goes, when you do decide whatever you put there, just please consider the Yao Ranch residents as well as myself and those that spoke. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I have one quick question for you, if you don't mind. If the water pressure is, and I may be out of line on this one, and I am, I'm gonna let that one go. I have to wait till we get on water pressure. So please come back.
You don't have to leave. You can ask.
No, ma'am.
I
No,
think
ma'am.
it'll be all right if you ask it. I don't think
No,
it'll
ma'am.
be.
No, ma'am. I can talk to you offline. I can talk. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Yes.
for the
No,
time.
thank you. Thank you for taking your time. All right. Public hearing
Madam
is
Mayor?
closed.
We have one additional request to speak form for public hearing received after 5.
Do I have it?
No, I have it. It's for Mary Wiley.
Public hearing open. Ma'am, please come up.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ms. Secretary, and I appreciate, Madam Mayor, and your time, council members. I came a little bit late. I apologize. I got my name in behind the 8 ball. I live, my property actually abuts this land that we're talking about tonight. My backyard actually touches and looks over this beautiful open space that's situated out there right now. So it's sad but true, but the price of progress happens, and I understand that. When we bought out there, we knew that that was likely to take place, that there would probably be development at some point in time. I ask and I implore that the council listen to the citizens that have spoken. They have offered good comments, suggestions, and ideas that maybe you wouldn't otherwise hear if you solely listened to your staff or the developer or maybe other people that have come in contact with you in this setting. I appreciate their comments and their passion as citizens because they live there just like I do. They feel that pain of that traffic, and they see the fear and the worry of all those people who are trying to, or especially those younger people who get on their bikes or their motorbikes or whatever, and they're driving up and down that traffic-ridden street. When I moved out there, I believe it was in 2012, we were then told, oh, it's okay, Featherline's going to be expanded. It's in the master plan. It's going to happen. It's in the master plan. So it hasn't happened yet, and I understand that. I certainly understand that money can't, it doesn't grow on trees and it can't come from nowhere, and it's got to take its turn as to what arteries are going to be evolved and in what time that happens. So I appreciate that. It doesn't negate the fact, however, that there is a traffic problem currently existing. So with that said, developers purchased this property knowing that it was agriculture, with the hope that they could get you all to rezone it. It doesn't mean you have to. And it certainly doesn't mean that they can't come back with a second opportunity to say, hey, maybe we should rezone it to maybe AR1 or a different setting that would still accommodate housing or something else, but might not allow for such a density-ridden opportunity that's going to further scare the neighbors, upset the water problems, and possibly cause some safety issues for people on those streets that haven't been developed and may not likely get developed for a while. With that said, I don't have any other prepared remarks, but I would kindly ask that you would sincerely consider what you've heard in your determination. Maybe talk to some of the P&Z folks and determine what their justification was for the ideas and for the rulings that they made. Had to be a reason that they went 5-0 So with that said, I kindly ask that you deny this request when it does become before the council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Public hearing is closed, and I just wanted to clarify one thing to the residents here and also the one looking online. A statement was made that two of our council members did not show up because of a vote. Let me tell you, law, this is not us doing this. This is what has to happen. There was a public notification sent out to 198 property owners, with 31 living out of Killeen. We found out today that 2 council members would not be here. So if every one of those individuals showed up tonight, because they already received the notification 2 or 3 weeks, we couldn't shut it down, because they still had the right to come here to speak. And the applicant, any applicant, not just this project here, any applicant, it has happened today, it happened 6 months ago, a year ago, 10 years. Any applicant that come here and petition for rezoning or plat or whatever come before the council, they have the right to pull it. It's not the council. So tonight, even when I got here, I asked the city attorney about, hey, we don't have enough council members here. One of them for sure is at the hospital. That's a given. The other one already been to the hospital and at home and could not come. So I don't want it to go out that this council plotted, planned for the ones that's looking and the ones that are here. This is not a plan. It's just the law. It has to happen. Let me tell you the process that has happened with a public hearing, not just tonight. I've been on here 7 years. This is our process. Let me read it, because somebody say something doesn't make it correct.
Right.
But if you don't have the knowledge on how this functions with a public hearing, you'll believe anything. So let me clarify that. For a public hearing, you have to get the staff comments first. You have to have the applicants to come up here, and they have the option to speak. You have the public hearing. That means anybody that sign up on that particular agenda item, they can speak on it. Then you close the public hearing. Then the council, they may talk, they may have discussion. The council has, on any public hearing item, they can table it, or they can vote on it at that time. So we, the council, we, the city, we, the staff, Team Killeen, have not done anything unethical or illegal. This is the process. With that being said, Councilmember Segarra.
Thank you, Mayor. And I never even thought of anything that you said earlier. You know, I didn't even know that we could not vote because we had 2 council members missing. But anyway, we heard a lot of good information from our citizens, and I'm hoping that, you know, in the future, we take that on and fix some of these issues that we have. And unfortunately, I said that earlier, in one way, it's sad, but the way the government works sometimes, you have to have a major need, and you know, the old Chicago mayor would say, don't take advantage of a crisis, because a lot of times, you know, that's when we make these changes. And I think that there's a couple of things that we need to look at in Y'all Ranch. You know, the traffic is, as was mentioned, is one of them, and I think that we definitely need to look at this if this is approved. And then the other part is that water pressure. Enough said on that water pressure, Mrs. Mayor, but that is an issue that we definitely need, because I'd hate to be in Y'all Ranch with I love my water pressure when I take a shower, and I think that's something that needs to be brought forth. I don't think anybody has ever brought that before us, and that's what I mean. A lot of times you do these things, and we have to play catch up of the good thing. It took us, you know, many years to get our road fixed, and nobody wanted to do it until we had a tragedy of Uri, and then let's do it. Let's play catch up. And so that's what I mean when I say that, you know, it takes these situations like this for us to take some action. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand, well, first of all, thank you to all the citizens who came out and spoke. and shared your experiences, real life, every day out there in Y'all Ranch. I understand there's a segment that wants it to remain agricultural, like it is and has been. I grew up on Onion Road. I get it. I used to walk down Feather Line to go pay the water bill. There was nothing out there back there in the early 90s, so I get it. There's a few things that I did want to make sure there was clarity on. That area is going to grow. It's just in a position where there's a need for housing and there's opportunity to meet that need, to meet that demand. There was never a need, from my understanding, to oversize Reese Creek. I heard that mentioned. I currently live off Reese Creek. It's sufficient the way it is. It was mentioned by someone that it's not, that we shouldn't, the development should not shoulder the responsibilities of the issues now. Now, I just want to remind the council, when we were discussing the preserve at Thousand Oaks, we got deep into conversation about the roadways being improved before we approved that zoning. And we defaulted to, okay, the fact of the matter is the city is responsible for taking care of these roads, but they're not responsible for shouldering that burden, and that went on to pass. There is a plan for our roads. We have our engineering department who has updates. Those are consistent. We know Bunny Trail is going to break ground for reconstruction this summer, as well as Watercrest. Gilmer is already being reconstructed. Those are expensive roads, and the other roads are prioritized for reconstruction. So it's not as if we're not paying attention to them. Those things take time. They have to be prioritized, and they have to be funded, and the city council definitely has been on top of that. P&Z, I can attest, I watched the meeting related to this case in P&Z, and I also feel that we got caught up on the particulars and not just the rezoning case. And so staff had to go around and, make sure we had definitions on what's in place versus a lot of assumptions that were there. But in particular, I want to note this, and I'll be done here. In the legislative text regarding this project, it states, the area of this development has the needed infrastructure to support the development. There is adequate water pressure and sewer availability. Featherline is currently a 2-lane county road with roadside ditches. The capacity of a 2-lane road at this condition is 1,900 vehicles per hour per lane. This would equate to 3,800 vehicles per hour for peak consideration. This capacity far exceeds the average daily traffic of 7,966 vehicles for 2 directions, as stated during the public comment at the Planning and Zoning meeting. The city has a long-term plan to widen and improve this corridor to urban design standards. Any improvement to the roadway as it relates to the project. I'm going to ask for one more minute. I'll be done.
I'll yield a minute to Councilman Boyd.
Thank you for that. And point of order in the audience. Thank you. A TIA will be required to determine the need for any mitigations along Featherline based on the additional growth. The development will also be required to install sidewalks along their frontage. Storm drainage design for this area will include 2 existing outfalls that will discharge into Tremere Creek tributaries that capture runoff for this area. Drainage design requirements will be reviewed during the preliminary plat and permit review to ensure no impact downstream or upstream of the proposed development. To get to the point, we have a sign in the back, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure if that's a distraction or not. Let's maintain decorum.
Mr. Cochran
And so
and Melissa Brown, you are disrupting the meeting. Please take down that sign, sir. We'll take a break, 5-minute break. Before we get started, please be respectful. We have had a good meeting all night. When the council speak, please listen, because they listen to you. And Councilmember Boyd, you do have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would you please set I don't even know what time we had him on. He only had 1 minute. He was almost done with the 1 minute.
Sure, this will be just a moment. My realization is that this is indeed just a rezoning case. And at this point, myself, the council, and Myself and the council are going a bit too far into the details of this, similar to what P and Z did. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to table PH-24-011 until the next regular city council meeting.
Councilmember Solomon?
Second.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Passed, a motion passed 5-0. Madam Secretary, when you're ready, next item.
PH 24012, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending the FY 2024 annual budget of the City of Killeen to increase revenue and expense accounts in multiple funds. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Killeen, Texas, amending the FY 2024 annual budget of the City of Killeen to increase revenue and expense accounts in multiple funds, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing a savings clause, and establishing an effective date."
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mrs. Drake went through the budget slide deck last week. Would you like her to go back through it? All right, with that being said, we will have a public hearing. Melissa Brown. Public hearing is open.
We're currently contemplating bringing up a whole lot of bonds this year, and we're still just finishing off 2011 series bonds for a project that was supposed to be paid for out of the 2021 bonds on Gilmer Street. Where did the money for the 2021 bonds go? Why are we still using money for 2011? And if we've had money in a 2011 series bond sitting around for, by my calculation, at least 13 years, why haven't we put that to use before now? We have CIP projects that were budgeted for this year that are now being funded with year-end budget balance transfers. So were these projects over budget by millions of dollars, or were they put in the budget with the expectation that they would be using the excess fund balance from FY23? If the latter is true, then that is a dangerous and irresponsible way to budget, since we never know what we're going to end up with at the end of a fiscal year if it's over our budgeted expenses. We have a transfer of fund balance to the Golf Course Enterprise Fund, which is proof of what I said a month ago regarding the city paying for the cost of maintenance and operation at Stone Tree, thus proving that just because you hear it from the dais doesn't make it true either. I would also like to add that I don't see where it's practical to start another enterprise fund. We should not have a fund just for facade and abatement grants, because that will require there to be a 3% fund balance in that fund, which is why we got rid of the support services fund in the first place. We found that by having the support services fund and transferring money into that, we were required to have that extra 3% just sitting there just in case something happened with the expenses. It would be much better to just encumber any money directly to those grants. That does not require us to maintain an extra 3% balance on the side of it. And just for the public who's listening, encumbering versus putting together a fund to the public just means that if you encumber it, you're assigning it to a very specific purpose. Putting it in a fund balance would mean that you are doing just that. You're putting it essentially in one little savings account, and that would be the only restricted use for it. You can do the same thing through encumbrance, and we do budget amendments on stuff all the time anyway. So I would ask the council to save us 3% on that fund balance and not do another special account for that, but also to ask why we have had bond money sitting around for 14 years, 13 years that we haven't used yet, even though we've had streets that need to be done, even though we have streets that still need to be done, even though I just heard a bunch of citizens talking about promises that had been made about Featherline. Thank you.
Public hearing is closed. Mrs. Drake, please come and clarify some misinformation. You heard all of the statements. Would you please, for the residents, clarify the bond money that was
Yes,
there?
ma'am. The 2011 bond was Stagecoach, and that has been held due to litigation. The golf course, the 73,000 is being moved because those were excess revenues over expenditures. So that is fund balance of the golf course that's being moved to the golf course enterprise. We were just waiting for the audit to finish for the end of the year.
Yes, ma'am.
3% would not be required for the new development services special revenue fund. Those are restricted funds. There's no personnel involved in that. It's restricted just for the vacant structures permit and for the technology fund. And the 2020 bonds are being used on all of the street projects like Gilmer and Watercrest and so on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that clarification. Can I get a motion? Councilmember Alvarez.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve.
A second, Councilmember Cigar. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carried 5-0. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Can I get a second? All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Before I adjourn, we will not be having a council meeting next Tuesday. No council meeting next Tuesday. Meeting adjourned.